Well, good morning, everyone. Marc, Naomi, Ben, can you guys hear me?
I can indeed.
Are we live? Excellent. Well, everyone, welcome to another edition of CollabTalk. Here we're on webisode number 11 here in November 2015. Woohoo! All right, so we've got a lot going on. It's actually been a very busy morning if you've not been paying attention to some of the news that's come out. We're going to go through a few of those items. But let's start out with introductions here. If I can forward my slide. Everybody see that all right? Webisode 11. And I was thinking about this slide. I'm Christian Buckley. I am the marketing officer with BZ, and I am was an Office 365 MVP. I guess we should change this now that we're all Office Server and Services MVPs. But I'll let the others introduce themselves. Naomi.
Hi, thanks, Christian. So excited. I can't believe it's 11 episodes already. Really? Wow. Time really does fly when you're having fun, right?
Yes.
So Naomi Moneypenny. I work for Many Worlds. I'm the Chief Technology Officer. We do expertise and knowledge discovery and collaboration systems. So very cool stuff that we get to work on. And right now, just outside of Austin, Texas. So happy to actually be home for just a little bit of time at least. So. Benjamin.
Yeah, hi, Benjamin Niaulin. I'm a dude that works at ShareGate, and yeah, I'm in Montreal. I guess this should be home. It's been a while.
Are you that guy that I always see on YouTube, Ben?
Yeah. Are you the guy with the selfies?
What?
And Marc Anderson.
And I'm Marc Anderson, as it says on the slide, and I'm in Boston, Mass. And I am still a SharePoint MVP. I never gave up. I'm never giving it up. That's what I'm going to do.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. And we'd like to thank our sponsors. So today, Colligo and BZ for sponsoring this webisode. And what we're going to be talking about today, so we're going to do kind of a European SharePoint conference recap and what was stated, and that has to do a little bit with some of the announcements that came out today, which honestly, when we put together the slides last night, this morning, we weren't sure if it was going to drop this morning, but it did. But we're also going to get through and talk about the SharePoint and the Office 365 admin UI, and then talk about the Delve people experiences, and we're going to show you a little bit of both of those things. And yeah, so the news that broke this morning, I guess I'll just I'll kind of jump to the first one, but the big part of the excitement around the European SharePoint conference that took place in Stockholm last week was the Jeff Teper keynote, in which he talked about kind of the future of SharePoint and where Microsoft is going to be making investments. And I did put together some pictures here, if you'll bear with me for a couple more slides here. It'll move over to it. So, so there's, of course, a number of panels. There were, I don't know how many MVPs that were there at the event. Wasn't it something like 35, 40 that were presented?
Mm-hmm.
And so had a lot of fun. Of course, we had a gala dinner that was an award ceremony that took place mid-conference that was in the blue and gold halls of the iconic Stockholm City Hall, which is where the Nobel Prize is awarded and the dinner and everything every year. It was just an amazing venue to have dinner and have that ceremony. Of course, there was a lot of content, a lot of interviews, a lot of blog posts that were generated out of the event. But I think a lot of people were really focused on, here you have Seth Patton, and then Bill Baer and Jeff Teper that gave their keynote talking about SharePoint Server 2016 and the roadmap. And so we saw some things, we learned some things, and that's kind of where we get to today of this topic of what are our takeaways from the event. So we're going to move away from this and go back to just the panel view. All right. So, takeaways from the event last week.
It was a pretty awesome time, I think. I think we all had a good time, except for Marc, who didn't get to come, but it was okay. But sorry. Sorry, Marc. Just pointing you out. I'm sorry. But no, it really was. It was a good, yeah, it was a good conference. Just to make him feel really awkward. But it was very interesting, I think, to see that we did have the keynote from Microsoft. This was not an official Microsoft conference, right? So this really was a sort of a more community-driven conference, so organized by a third party. So it was good to see sort of a whole range of content that was going on there. And the fact that Microsoft brought quite so many people there, obviously we had Jeff Teper, the corporate vice president, Seth Patton was there, Bill Baer was there, Jeremy Fake was there, organizing a hackathon. So it was really interesting to see all of the folks that were brought in, and just to see that there was presence really at that event, especially since the timing for Ignite and everything else has been moved on. So I think our key takeaway is the news from this morning, right? So that Jeff did announce that there would be a drop of the beta 2 by the end of the month, and here we are. So this morning that did actually happen. So it was pretty awesome. And he did reaffirm the commitment, of course, to the on-prem versions. And I thought that was really great that he sort of, made people feel happier about, if you're on-prem and you want to stay on-prem, Microsoft is definitely going to be there, and at least, one more server release after 2016, and then afterwards it's just a question of, I think, more market demand than anything else. So no plans to sort of completely cut off things. So that was kind of a couple of my key takeaways from there. So. Ben, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, no, I think you pretty much said it all. I think it was a combination for us, for a lot of us, because we went to the MVP Summit the week before in Seattle, where they told us some very exciting stuff, of course, and then right after, so it got us a little bit excited about SharePoint, and then literally the next week we're all at the European SharePoint Conference, and then there's the keynote, and we can. You can read between some of the lines, and we see where it's going. So it's very exciting. I think Jeff Teper said it really well, and I think it's what most of us felt in those 2 weeks is renewed focus on SharePoint, and that made me feel good hearing it. It made me feel good seeing it. Obviously, at the keynote, it was more. I felt the keynote was more to tell the world, hey, Jeff is back, and we're all aligned with OneDrive for Business to start the documents in, and then evolve into SharePoint team sites, and we're going to be fully focused on the team sites. Expect a lot coming out of that in the coming couple of months. And of course, there's the beta 2 that was released today, which we didn't expect 20,000 new features to come out either. It's more of a things to come, as a lot of things were done before Jeff was even back. I don't know, Christian?
Yeah, before turn over to Marc, I was going to point to, Ben had a great blog post that you captured a lot of the screenshots of the slides that Jeff and Bill and Seth shared. And so if you, and I don't have a link to that, we were adding links at the end, and I forgot to add a link to your blog post. Maybe, Ben, if you could tweet that out with the CollabTalk hashtag. But
sure, SharePoint is back, stronger than ever.
Yeah, but what's great about that is it did provide a view into where Microsoft is going to be making their investments. It may not provide a lot of the detail I think we want behind that, but at least you can see, that as Jeff walked through and talked about each of the various segments where Microsoft is looking and kind of their positioning around the investments that are to come over the next year and beyond. And so I think it's very insightful to take a look at that. And Ben, I mean, you did a great job of kind of categorizing what was discussed, but you can read a lot from taking a look at those slides as well. And Marc, I mean, you were attending. I don't know if you stayed up and were streaming it live while it was happening. It was kind of in the middle of the night. But what are your thoughts or takeaways?
Well, I was not, but I did not watch the keynote. But I think that Naomi made the point, but I'll make it again. The fact that so many Microsoft people, including Jeff Teper, were there at a European SharePoint conference, not European Office 365 conference. It's a SharePoint conference, and they're the rhetoric from them is very clear. It's SharePoint is not dead. SharePoint's alive and well, and in fact, SharePoint is a huge focus. And so that message was, sort of blurry for a long time. And I think that a lot of the news coming out of that conference was that solid stuff, which is, you know, that alone makes it a very important statement from Microsoft.
Yeah.
Agreed. It's, you know, there's I thought that was better language around not just that, you know, SharePoint continues to be important, and that again they stated a number of times. I think all three of them in the keynote mentioned the fact that there will be yet another release for on-prem beyond this, and that Microsoft has been. While I know there's a lot of naysayers that are out there that have been like, oh, you know, kind of the doom and gloom crowd that. Really started up around the 2010 release, if you go back and kind of pay attention to that. But you know, that read between the lines of, oh, you know, Microsoft only mentioned SharePoint twice when they, you know, last time they mentioned it 22 times. You know, what's going on here? And you know, there's just a lot that's coming out of Redmond right now. But I think that they did a better job of talking about kind of the continuum of capabilities, and not just talking about SharePoint, but SharePoint in relation to what's happening with OneDrive for Business, what's happening with Yammer, what's happening with you know, Skype for Business, and of course the Office Graph and the Microsoft Graph and kind of all of the other capabilities. Talking about it, you know, in that end-to-end continuum, I think is important, because it's going to be increasingly important as the new people experiences, new experiences come out. As Microsoft releases more of these next-gen portal solutions of looking at that end-to-end. So SharePoint's not going away, it's a key part of it, but it's just one piece in the solutions that are going to be coming forth.
Yeah, I really like that, Bill. I like Bill's section, especially on the Delve analytics area. So that's something that, you know, something I've been working on for a long time, but now seeing some of those organizational analytics as dashboards, I think it's really interesting to look at the spectrum of what's happening in terms of metrics being applied to productivity and collaboration inside of your organization and what that means. So the organizational analytics are going to be shown as part of the E5 licenses, and you'll probably be able to upgrade, I presume, as well. But the ability to be able to see from a management perspective of, you know, the teams that are working together and which teams are collaborating with which, and maybe some opportunities for others to be part of that. But then also seeing some individual sort of productivity measures and what that really means for you as a person. So how much time do you spend a week in meetings? How much email are you sending outside of regular working hours? What kinds of, you know, link conversations, Skype conversations that you're having to have, or, you know, to make something happen. So but having some metrics around that and what that means from a productivity standpoint, I think is really important. I want to make sure that people don't sort of throw out the baby with the bathwater with it too, because it's one of those things where people suddenly get worried. It's like, will my manager be able to see, you know, how much time I'm spending, right, doing emails or not doing emails, or how much time I'm in meetings, or those kinds of things. And the individual metrics you can see yourself. Your manager gets a roll up basically of 5 people. You know, within your team, and if it's less than that, they don't see something. So it's it's a nice way to sort of start thinking about what does productivity, what does collaboration mean, and how do you actually put metrics around it. That's not to say that the metrics that we are shown in the dashboard are something we want to run our business by, but it certainly gives us the data to maybe make some decisions and do something a little bit differently. So that's kind of good too. So I also wrote there's a blog post out on the ShareGate blog as well about that too. So
Yeah.
It seems like with a lot of these recent announcements, like what the Microsoft folks were talking about in Stockholm, we're starting to see a lot of those white spaces between these interesting capabilities filling in. You know, we had, you know, Delve come out, and it's sort of this thing. Well, you know, how does it fit into everything else? And we had groups come out, and it was this thing, and how does it fit into everything else? I think based on what I've heard summarized from the keynote by Ben and others, is that those white spaces are starting to make more sense. How do these things glue together? And how do they become an interesting platform? And some of those analytics, I think, are an indicator of, you know, one of those places where we saw some interesting things, but now we're seeing how they work together.
That's a great point, and I'll just kind of a side note, since we've got, you know, 3 ISVs represented here and 1 SI, that you know, we're pointing now, Ben. But is the fact that so much of the glue has been filled by the partner ecosystem, and with Microsoft going and back to that kind of continuum, filling in the white space in between, and having these kind of end-to-end experiences answered of not just moving in between the various solutions that are part of the stack, but having a story associated with that, and how these things work together, and thinking about it across those. How are people actually using the technology in these different pieces to get work done? For some, I know that there are some partners that look at that and say, hey, you're stepping on kind of traditional partner ecosystem opportunities here. Which may be sort of true, but you have to look at, Microsoft has to do the right things to build out and make a robust platform that is scalable and supportable and meets the needs of their customers, and so they're going to need to fill some of those gaps. And with that, companies partners need to constantly be innovating and looking at, okay, what additional value can we provide? So I think that when Microsoft jumps ahead and provides this the additional layers of innovation and speeds up the rate at which they release innovation, it means that the partner community is also going to have to step that up, and it's already happening now, and have to go above and beyond. So I think at the end of that, you have end users customers that are going to benefit from the increase in the cadence of innovation that's coming out of partners and out of Microsoft. So I think it's a very exciting time.
Definitely. I think it's one of the key things is to look at that continuous innovation that people are wanting to deliver, and that I think customers are just becoming more aware that point solutions are not where it's at. It's really about understanding how you can deliver capabilities across all of the functionality, and it doesn't matter if that functionality comes from SharePoint or comes from Yammer, or comes from OneDrive, wherever, right? The product doesn't matter anymore. Really what matters is I can package up these capabilities and serve my end users in the right way. And that's, I think we're seeing that evolution, which is, the problem is on that road it's very bumpy because you have a set of basically point experiences that keep getting delivered and it feels disconnected, but then when, you've got to build those points basically and then join the dots together. And I think that's kind of where we're seeing. So the ecosystem, it's painful, but we all have to move along with it, right? And be able to evolve a little bit from an end user perspective and what they're trying to deliver there. So that doesn't mean, of course, inside of customers, from that perspective, that you still need to have a collaboration strategy. It's something I hammer on about all the time, and I won't take too much time here, but making sure you have a collaboration strategy, because having a vendor strategy, having a tool strategy is not the same as having a collaboration strategy. So many people just take a vendor path and think that's their collaboration strategy. It is not, right? Understanding what it is that you need to deliver and make sure that you understand what tasks and solutions are important for your end users, and then mapping the tools, and then being able to take availability of those tools. If there are new things that come out, if you want to experiment with, understanding when you can fit those into your existing infrastructure. But you still have to have that collaboration strategy on top. Don't let one vendor basically be your collaboration strategy. So.
I would add on to that, don't let Microsoft be that one vendor that's your collaboration strategy. Your collaboration strategy belongs to you. Microsoft may be providing the platform and a lot of the tools that are within that, but again, it's the technology is not your collaboration strategy.
Yeah, that's an important point.
I think a lot of people miss that these days because we get so feature-itis, right? We get so excited about seeing all the new stuff rolling out, and if only they'll fix all of my problems, right? It doesn't work that way, right? So they're not going to do.
We start using Office 365. We're collaborating, right? Period.
We're just in there.
Not quite that simple.
I collaborated twice while you guys were talking. So.
That's really scary. Is that our new analytics? Anyway, so I'm looking forward to playing with the preview, of course, that just came out, so we'll do that, and then we'll see some of the new changes out there. I think that's one thing we should make a point of in terms of SharePoint 2016 is that you really are basically you're buying an engine, this new set of technology and a bundle of sort of parts, basically, that have come together. So you're buying an engine that you will then be able to put your own body, your own solutions, your own things, more evolved experiences on top of. And so it's fundamentally quite different than previous releases. So it's not supposed to be the one-stop shop. It's basically, this is the fundamental engine block that you're building, and then you can put other things around it, and we'll see continuous innovation as part of that. So I think it's a different roadmap and a different way of deploying technology than we've done in the past. So.
Excellent. Well, we're going to jump to our second topic, and we are going to come back to a little bit at this point. We've got some links that I'll share at the end as well, and some new content that's coming out. But with that, I'm going to jump back over, if it will show up here. So this is our second topic here. What is happening with the admin UI for SharePoint and Office 365? So we're going to talk a bit about that. I'm going to actually share this over with Marc and let him do some screen sharing. And let's do this.
Always an exciting transition, isn't it?
It's always good.
Will it work?
Right. I have transferred that over. Do you have that now, Marc?
I see. Do you see
There.
my
Sure do.
admin center?
You see it?
Yay! All right. So this is the admin center as we're used to seeing it, and this is in my tenant. And because I'm in first release, I believe is my qualifying criteria here. I have this little sneak peek link up here, which many of you may not see yet. So I'm just going to click on that, and it actually flips over really fast, except when people are watching. Wow.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's just that easy, people. It's just that easy.
There we go. So what we're seeing here is, a UI that's considerably different. I think when some of the server products started to go to the more modern UI, a lot of IT pros and folks on that side of the fence sort of freaked out. It's like, we don't want it to look good. We just want our command lines, right? But I think this is going to make for a much better experience for your sort of average tenant administrator who's not always in an enterprise. Oftentimes they're in a smaller organization. I think the small medium business SMB market is actually a real sweet spot for Office 365, and this is going to make a lot more sense to them. When you do switch here, let me go on for a couple minutes, guys, and then you can tell me to shut up and
Sure.
add your 2 cents. But there's a nice tour in here, so you can actually sort of skip through, and it will highlight. And they're still working on it, so that goes behind the
Marc,
bar
is this
there.
your real Office 365, or is this like photoshopped?
No, this is real Office 365.
Look at the what's new on the left-hand side. It tells you updates, and the last one is
Winter
Winter.
is coming. Yeah. Interesting. It's not a link, so we can't find out what's going to happen.
It's just a statement of fact.
It's interesting, isn't it? So, it's clearly work in progress. I think that the content here, it's not all live. We do see things for real, like the service health screen, which is, that's a pretty obvious indicator. There's a good visual there. There's something going on, right? This is a lot easier to look at than the current service health screen, I think, and find out what's going on. We can drill into any one of these particular things if we're interested. Another thing that I think really improves a lot is user management. You notice that this becomes a much more visual experience. I don't have a huge number of people in my tenant. You may notice some names there you recognize, though. Billing becomes a much clearer experience. We sort of are moving toward this metaphor of using cards like we see in Delve and lots of other experiences these days as well. So we can see what's going on here. We can take actions. So anyway, this is just a quick tour that shows you sort of where they're heading with the new admin UI. I think, like I said, it's going to be a lot cleaner experience, especially for sort of the mid-range of administrator. What do you guys have to add to that?
I like that they have the little videos too, which I think is helpful.
Oh, right. Yep, sure.
self-service there, because if you're not familiar with this stuff, it becomes difficult to figure it out. The other part of it, of course, that we won't see on here right now is that you'll be able to give access to different folks to different parts of it, so which will also be really useful. So if you're looking for the analytics, for example, if you're going to use the Office 365 admin panel to look at your Yammer analytics, your Office 365 analytics, you'll be able to have that little panel will be there too, and be able to view those things there. So it'll be kind of a cool thing too. So.
Also, I think this group administration becomes a lot clearer than it is in the current interface too. I actually haven't played with that too much, but I think that that's a much simpler way to deal with this set of activities.
Mm-hmm, definitely permissioning.
But I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. We're seeing these. I don't want to use the word modern because that started to mean something different, but these more up-to-date, really modern kind of experiences, cats on unicorns, this is Microsoft we're talking about here. And we're actually getting something that's much better user experience for people to.
Feels very inspired from Azure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, they're taking what works across their organization and rolling it across, which is something we haven't seen them do before. It's less siloed.
Well, a lot of what they're trying to do, and they started doing this when with the version of Office 365 that came out around the SP 2013 release, is kind of providing that streamlined admin experience. What are those common activities which every admin needs to do? When you want to do specific admin tasks within one of the workloads, like inside of SharePoint or in OneDrive or within Exchange, and then you still need to go through the console over to those activities. I know that if you have experiences like DLP, the data loss prevention, the rules, the ways that you configure DLP in Exchange is just different than any of the other workloads. So as they build out services, I know Microsoft is looking at those things which can be done broadly across workloads as well as in the individual services. So yeah, that's a great example there. So you can see the Admin Center for SharePoint in drilling into specific activities.
That should be the old
one. Just as fast.
The old thing, but it's much simpler to get through places.
Right.
Yeah. So I know that was, how much Microsoft is going to invest in. Like, can I go and create policies that would be across those workloads? Well, my point was that it's difficult just to go and create an administrative policy that cuts across those services because the way that they work and the technology that drives them has fundamental differences. So that may be further out. However, those kind of mainstream activities that can be accomplished even across Azure because of your AD management, being able to go and provision users across all of those services in one place through the Azure Active Directory is possible because of Azure, and you'll have a more streamlined experience now from the admin console. So it's continuing to change and evolve.
I've always hoped that with interfaces like this, they could almost have a slider that gives you, I'm a neophyte to I'm an expert, get the hell out of my way, and maybe a few stop points in between, because like you said, you want to be able to get to the most common activities as easily as possible. It's no different than when we design an intranet for somebody. You don't want to bury something 12 clicks deep if it's something they want to do every day.
Is that the slider? Neophyte, newbie, and it's like, oh, I'm seeing stuff. I don't know what that is. Slide it towards the newbie. It's like, all right, all of those problems just disappear. I don't know what it's like. Just gets simplified. It's like the UI. It's written in crayon. It's just yes. That's what I want.
The first time that people come in here, and you're seeing a lot of either consumers or very small businesses coming into this. That the old admin UI. If I switch back here, there's an awful lot on that screen to try to absorb, and I think that's a lot more difficult for somebody who's coming into this new.
But SharePoint is an extended recovery, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's extended. It's been extended for about a week now. I'm not quite sure.
Also, when is a vendor going to come and have the admin console assistant, Clippy? When are we going to see that as a third-party solution added in for the admin experience? Oh, is this what you're trying to do? You're trying
You'll have to move fast.
Let me help you with that.
I don't know, Cortana for admin, maybe. Maybe better. So, could be more useful.
Well, we've talked about this admin UI a few times over the last couple of months, and I think we wanted to show it today because we've had quite a few people say, well, that's great, but what does it look like? So it's been it's changing. It's been changing over the last couple of months that we've been able to look at it. There's slightly more live stuff here, so I expect that we'll see quite a bit more meat to it before it actually becomes available to everybody.
Yeah. That's the thing. When we talked about this initially 3-4 months back, it didn't look like this. So it is evolving very rapidly.
Well, the cat wasn't on the unicorn back then, so
I know. That's how we've advanced. We now have the ninja cats on unicorns, and the unicorn's breathing fire. I don't think the earlier version was it breathing fire. I'd have to look at my stickers.
I think that's an ad.
It did have fire.
I need to have fire. Yeah, I have the sticker somewhere too. So,
It's burning the apple on my Mac.
The other thing we should mention is the updated messaging policy, right? So we're seeing a lot more notifications from across the different things in the platform as part of the admin center, and I know it's not shown on this specific UI, but it will be. So all of the notifications that you're getting up in the ribbon, as well as for admins generally across all the different services. Seen a lot of improvement from Microsoft in terms of what you're seeing, both from if you're seeing all of the Yammer status messages are in there, you're seeing all of the different services across OneDrive and SharePoint, etc. So it's really very helpful for being able to see all that. And there is also an RSS feed of all of those notifications, and I recommend folks have these put into your Outlook because that's what I do. It's much easier to keep up to date with them. I basically can set a little folder in Outlook to have that RSS feed so you can see all the notifications as they come in. Of course, the admin experience is also much better on your mobile device as well. So if you haven't checked it out, on the Office 365 admin app, it's also very helpful. So on the iPhone, I really love it. And it allows you to do a lot of the common tasks through there and get notifications and all that kind of stuff too. So, like SharePoint Online's not feeling well right now, so it's useful to be able to see those things too. So I think they're working on a much bigger, better experience, and we're seeing this interface, which is a good start, and then we'll see even more sort of holistic messaging across all of the services, so you can be aware of what's going on and what's coming, and helping you to prepare for change as part of it too.
And if you think about it, that's part of that whole mobile first, then cloud first, right? I mean, you don't usually say it that way, not with a then, but the mobile UI for this admin stuff has actually been better than the browser-based interface for quite a while now, or at least it's more modern, to use that word again. And now they're sort of backfilling this browser-based UI, which is great.
Yeah, really good stuff.
All right. Well, let's jump over to, if we can, and thanks, Marc, for sharing your screen there. And
sure.
We're going to jump over to our next topic. If I can take this back briefly. There it is. What do I need to know about the Delve people experiences? And so with that, we're going to switch over to Naomi. Make sure I get the right Naomi here.
One in pink.
One in pink, yeah. I think Dan would appreciate that.
Do you see the control yet? There we go.
So hopefully you can see my screen, just double checking, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a demo tenant, so please excuse the lack of content in here, but I did want to show a little bit about Delve, and we've talked about Delve a lot over the last couple of months, and also we've talked about the people experience, which is something we're really seeing people focus on inside of Microsoft in terms of delivering a great experience, but also that repository basically for your unified profile. And so you'll see over here on the left-hand side, I'm logged in as Garth Ford, so you'll see some sort sort of updates in terms of the activity that you have as a user. So just clicking through here, you can see, for example, some links that have been shared in Yammer. I can see some documents that are stored in SharePoint as well as ones in OneDrive. So it's just sort of helpful reminders of here's the stuff that I've recently been working with, because how many times have you done that, right? You can't remember where you put the file that you were recently using. So it's very helpful to see that there. And then over here, you'll see that there's a profile tab. And that profile tab allows us to look at some basic details about this user. So for synchronized up with Azure AD, so you'll see that contact information is being populated automatically from Azure AD. And then we have the About Me sort of section where we can edit this profile. I can go through, I can put in my skills, you know, schools, all those kinds of things that are important to me. So very similar to the kinds of information we had in my site, but now it's in one central place, and it can be accessed by other services. And then over here on the left-hand side, you see some evidence around Office Graph in terms of what it is that you've been working on recently. And this is really helpful, I think, just the same way as you might go check out a business connection on LinkedIn to see what somebody's been working on recently or what they're talking about, what they're publishing. This is a great way to do the same thing, but for your colleagues inside of your organization. So the ability to see some of these new things that they're working on and see what's basically top of mind for them. So it helps you to prepare maybe for some conversations or perhaps look for some similarities or things that you want to work on together. So it's just a great way to be able to view that. Again, going across all of those services, right, which is the really big benefit of using Office Graph and Delve as an experience. I also have my organizational hierarchy in here, so my org chart is part of this. Garth doesn't have any reports, so Garth needs to work on that, clearly. And then the brand new praise feature is down here too. So this actually shows praise that this user has received. It's very similar in some ways to the Yammer praise, but it has a 200-character limit, I think it is, on there, and so basically it has some pre-populated icons. I think there's 6 icons right now that allow you to show, you know, what kind of thing what's useful to that specific user. I can go ahead and look at somebody else's profile, so that was kind of my profile as this user. And for example, I can see if I look over here for Katie, I can see again what she's working on. Again, I'm only ever seeing the content that I have access to. I'll never be shown something in Delve that I don't get access to. So, but I can see at least what she's working on, the different areas here. And then I can also go to the profile here, so I can see here. And I could offer to give her praise. You can see I've already praised her before, but this is a great way of doing peer-to-peer recognition. So the send praise feature is here, and I can type in a message. I can say, you know, thank you for your help. As I said, 200-character limit on that, and then I have these 6 pre-populated icons. Right now you can't change these, but we'll see if that happens in the future. I will discard this one. I'm going to go back to me, and I'm going to go ahead and look at the blogging experience, which is basically the new.
Before you, if I may interrupt,
sure, Mark.
I just want to add, because we at Ignite they had also mentioned that every groups in Office 365 would also get their profile. So that's interesting as well. Their activity, what's going on as part of the group. So I think it'll be interesting to see evolve. And then at the European conference in SharePoint, we saw a new tab there in between activity and profile called communications. And I don't know anything about that, but
first
wanted
release.
to share. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
That's right. So yeah, that's a good point, Ben. So I wondered what the communications tab was going to show. So one of the screenshots that we saw at European SharePoint conference, I'm not sure whether they meant to show that or not, but
I didn't click on it.
You know, they didn't click on it, but and it also does appear. This is a first release tenant as well, so it's kind of a cool thing to look at. You know, I can obviously have access to my my favorites here too. So, for example, the blogging experience. So something was a little bit of a painful experience, perhaps previously, and so being able to create a blog, very simple now, and we get that new authoring canvas as part of it. So I can go ahead and click on New Post, and it's going to say it's setting up my blog, even though it's already set up. And you'll see that I basically am presented with this very nice experience that helps me to author a blog. Basically, you know, template form-looking thing, basically something that looks a lot like Medium and looks very simple. So, for example, if I want to go ahead and add an image, I can do that. and you'll see it automatically brings up my OneDrive that's coming from my tenant here, so it's the OneDrive for my company. And I can see that there are folders in here, and I can even get the email attachments that have been sent to me. So Garth has received an image here as part of his email. It's automatically just showing that, makes it really simple for you to be able to see those things. So here's Jeff Teper talking at the European SharePoint Conference, and then I could call this, ESPC, etc. And I could be saying, excuse me, ESPC. I could say this is the wrap-up of what I'm doing, so, show all these things here. So wrap-up, summary, etc. And then start writing. So this becomes a very nice authoring experience. I think people really appreciate having something new and different from an experience perspective, and making it very simple for people to author and talk inside of the company. So great time at ESPC, etc., etc. So people could do that, and then when I'm ready, I can save it, obviously, and then I can always publish that when I'm ready to share it with the rest of my organization. So it's just a nice way to be able to do that. It gives it a pretty experience up front. And I think it's really important that we're working on a canvas that feels like it's delivering a consumer type of experience, so something we might do on the internet. Doesn't feel like SharePoint at all, and really I think helps do that, some of the collaboration we want to show as part of that. I can browse through my previous posts as well. I don't have any in here right now, but I can do that too.
Naomi, I think one of the first things that sort of the enterprise crowd thinks when they see something like this is, oh, that's great, how can I extend it? But I think what they're aiming at here makes a lot more sense. It's that sort of one path through everything that's simple and easy, so that people can create content and get it out there and have it be valuable content, as opposed to all of these ridiculous bells and whistles that we've probably had too many of in the past, right? Lots and lots of different ways to reconfigure things so that things often just weren't even usable. That's the beauty of this, is to keep the main paths simple. I think you pointed out on the praise page, maybe we'll be able to add our own little badge or something at some point, but that kind of stuff becomes less important than, can I actually do what I need to do? I think that's the beauty of this. And sorry to stop you in the middle, but I love the way that this posting page works. It's so simple. I think this passes the mom test. I think anybody could use, my mom was the bad techie person. So anybody could really step up to this and try and get some content out there, which is great.
I think it's just it's one-page application, basically, which is what we want to see, right, as a future of experiences. And then the ability to add in all sorts of formatting, the things we might expect that were traditionally quite hard to do, feels like a different experience. Sorry, Christian, didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I was just going to say that over the last year, I mean, there's been a lot of articles written about like blogging is dead and this kind of stuff, and and it's really it's not about, the point is not about a blog or whatever other your primary communication vehicle of choice. It's the fact that we communicate in different ways. We need to be able to capture our knowledge and be able to plug it in, and then be able to share that out and make that more easy. One of the things that I like that Microsoft is concentrating more and more on is that no matter where you're working, whichever workload, that they're adding a share button, making it easier for me both to discover the content in the different places where I'm working and consolidate that into kind of my personal view, as well as make it really easy just to author content, whether it's content that's that's on my project that I'm that's not ready for prime time but is on my in a folder on my OneDrive for Business. If it's a formal project effort where people are collaborating via SharePoint, or if it's something that is an idea or a thought that I just wanted to put out there on my blog and share that with my team, all of that content is easily shared out as well as found, discovered based on the people that I have a relationship with, and that's really what it's about.
And to go on top, like where Marc was talking about extensibility, and I think if anything, when I saw how Delve works, as a developer, I'm not a developer, but I think for developers, if anything, it would give them some great ideas what is this? It's there's one page called the pointpublishing.aspx page. It's a single-page application, and every user that creates a blog, they got a new My Site, so to speak, that's under the /portals/personal, and every blog post that they create is actually a JSON file, and the single-page application renders it. So what's to stop us from taking that idea and, if we need it in the enterprise, create our own single-page application, either leverage that JSON file, I don't think so, or create our own system where each user has a personal area, library where things get stored. I think, if anything, it gives a lot of opportunities. It gives a taste of what is possible and why this is actually a good idea, because Microsoft can, in a year, say, you know what, this design is actually not good anymore. We're going to update how a blog post looks like. They just have to change that one page, right? And then the content is pulled from everyone's new personal library. So this is quite interesting, if anything. So I really, really like it.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you use the Microsoft Graph to gobble up that JSON content in different ways than SharePoint is doing it, or Delve is doing it, or whatever is doing it, then we can start to build our own sort of, we've used the word mashups in the past. There are all kinds of different words that have been, or phrases that have been floated for that kind of stuff. But
Absolutely.
It doesn't necessarily mean we replace that blogging authoring experience, but we might replace the way we display it. We have that sort of content management nirvana where we've got content stored as content, and we can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah.
We can show it in stodgy old pages that look like our enterprise wants it to look like, or we can show it in these nice modern kinds of pages.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Lots of choices.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing when you actually make the content separated from the actual technology and the platform that we're running in, right? Which is what we've always wanted for the longest time. So.
Which I think is interesting too, because as much as we talk about Office 365 is being this service where you're able to just go in, it's out of the box, ready to go, intelligent, kind of all those things that Microsoft talks about. And then we have people that are concerned, hey, I want to be able to go in and configure and create an experience within my organization that takes advantage of the platform, but we're going to do things in a different way. And I think as we're beginning to see as the strategy unfolds and the technology matures, is that those opportunities to go in and to create a unique, customizable experience for your organization, it's not going away. You have that capability. It's just in a much more supportable, scalable manner.
The cloud scale, that's what it's all about, right? So, manufacture that. So yeah, I think a lot of improvements there from Dell.
And I know, Ben, you need to take off. We are going to just jump over to our final segment here.
I'll leave you guys with the mixed nuts.
All right.
All right, thanks again. I apologize. I have to run off.
Thanks for stopping by, Ben.
Webinars. I didn't do it good. My bad.
All right, so we're going to jump over to, to our topic of mixed nuts. So, of course, we've already kind of talked about, the news that dropped about the SharePoint 2016, the Beta 2, the announcement this morning. There's also dropped news about Microsoft Graph, not the Office Graph, but the Microsoft Graph. So if you go to the Office blogs, you'll be able to get more information there. Well, boy, I was going to jump to the next slide and talk about the links, but I guess it's at the very end. What other news is breaking here in the last couple days, Marc and Naomi?
I'm just scanning Twitter to see if we missed anything from the Connect conference, because there's so much coming out of Microsoft so fast that it's hard to keep straight. They've open sourced Visual Studio Code. There's all kinds of stuff going on today at that Connect conference if you're interested in things at that level. So don't leave yet, but after we're done.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Sorry, Naomi.
Right. I was going to mention with the Microsoft Graph, I just wanted to take a minute to make sure we understand the difference between Office Graph and Microsoft Graph, because now there's a lot of graphs in the world, right? And I want to make sure that we understand the fundamentals of that. So Office Graph is really just looking at Office 365 content. So whether it's Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, Yammer, all of those services that are part of it, Sway, etc. All of those things are part of the Office Graph, and basically it's the people and the content as part of that graph. The Microsoft Graph takes that concept but basically puts it on steroids and allows you to put in consumer services, so OneDrive personal, and then being able to extend it out to other things, so other consumer services that you might be using already, as well as going maybe even to other graphs from other technology companies. And so the idea of this ubiquitous graph, this connection web of relationships and content and people, being able to actually mine that to give personalized experiences and to help unify all of the sources of content together. I think it's incredibly exciting. I'm so, like, the Microsoft Graph for me is like, woo, I'm so happy about this, I really am, because it really allows us to blend the best of both worlds, maybe from a personal and work life as well as just being able to unify those experiences or those content pieces from lots of different places. So lots of exciting stuff coming out as part of the Connect conference as well, and you'll see some of those areas too. And I see that I guess Jeremy Fake and Scott Hillier will be on to talk about that too on Friday. So lots of really cool stuff as part of that.
I think one other thing from the developer side of the Microsoft Graph, I think what developers, those cranky old developers will see from this thing is that it's an incredibly robust REST interface. It's versioned, so there's less likelihood of running into problems with an existing version. While they're building a new one, the documentation is going to be better. This is a huge step forward in the way that Microsoft is exposing data for consumption. And I think it's also fitting that they're doing it because it's what's been going on in the web development world for quite a few years now. And it's not that they're catching up, because I think they're actually doing such a good job that they've brought themselves up to the lead of the pack. And I don't say stuff like that lightly. And what we'll be able to do is consume this content from various different sources, and Microsoft Graph being one of them, and start to build those incredibly interesting applications. I've got a couple ideas rattling around in my head. They're sort of lonely in there, but I think you'll see some of the ISVs and other traditional SharePoint development shops come out with some really fascinating new kinds of capabilities because this graph is available. I think it really opens up a lot of possibilities.
Agreed. I think the next year, I know that we're hearing this a lot from Microsoft folks. That this next year we're all really excited about what's coming out from the SharePoint space in general. I think we're going to see a lot of innovation coming from Microsoft, of course, at a very rapid pace, but as well from the partner ecosystem. So it's just I think we are entering a new realm of where people, I think, have adjusted to the whole cloud first, mobile first, innovation, leading from the cloud, and adjusting to the cadence of what that will mean for on-prem. But I think we're going to continue to see things speed up in both on-prem and in the cloud. Should make it very interesting this next year, and a lot of great stuff that we'll see.
There's actually
go ahead.
One other thing about things rolling out fast, if we've got a second, is I think this is a relatively new thing. The first release rollout that you can sign up for on Office 365 so far has been, you either turn it on or you turn it off per tenant. There are now capabilities there to turn it on for individual people. I don't think we've talked about that on this show before. And so if you have a couple of cutting-edge people or people who do your testing, you can set them up for first release, and the rest of the organizations can stay on the regular rollout cycle, and that way you're a little bit more protected, getting some testing in before those features hit everybody else.
Yeah.
That's great. That's been a concern of a lot of customers, that we're how do we get this advanced view and prepare our teams, and now you can do it at the individual level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's all part of the first release for business, which allows you to basically fork and decide which updates you're going to opt into as well. I think it brings us to a much wider point, and I'm going to write a blog post about this because one of the issues I think we see people struggling with, and one of the things that Jeff Teper had mentioned as part of his keynote, was the pace of change, right? The pace of change of updates that you're getting from Office 365, all these new capabilities that our end users have to keep up to date with. And he was saying that he had recently talked to some of the folks over at Harvard University, talked to all the CIOs there, and they were saying, you know, can you slow down the updates, right? He shared that little anecdote because the pace of change was going so fast. And one of the things I want to reinforce to this is we have this first release type of capability. We are able, as Marc mentioned now, to be able to provision it out to specific people. What is going to be needed inside of your organization is a network of champions as part of that. Just the same way as if you were deploying a new technology, if you were deploying Yammer or something like that, you would have a network of champions to help you deploy and make that useful inside of your company. The only way to manage this change, really, from the amount of stuff you're going to see from Office 365, because you can't keep up with what's going on in Power BI, what's going on with Sway, what's going on with SharePoint, what's going on in Exchange, all of these different technologies and new things that are coming out as well. So you have to have kind of a network of power users, a network of champions inside of your company who can really be sort of some of the focus for specific products or specific solutions that are really important inside of your organization. Then you'll be able to allocate first release to those individuals or a small community, and so that community perspective can actually come together. You can do peer support, you can do, you know, user group type methodology inside of your company. So sort of building communities of practice around folks who are actually going to be on point for experiencing some of the new services. I think it's the only way to really help them manage the change problem inside of the organization as all of this new technology keeps flooding forward.
Agreed. Well, just to wrap up here, again, thank you for everybody for joining this this webisode, and thanks again to our sponsors, Colligo and BZ, for making this possible. And of course, folks can keep the conversation going on Twitter via CollabTalk. I know many of us are all going to jump over onto yet another webinar and talk more, but for those that, the main one, Ben jumped over, is starting here in the next minute, the ShareGate Discover SharePoint 2016 webinar. Of course, we mentioned the Dev Pulse that's happening on Friday. There's also the Tech Talk with Bill Bear on Friday, where he's going to be specifically going through and talking about SharePoint 2016 Beta 2. And then Dan has published, and I think it's all out there live. Dan, let us know if it's not. Oh, okay, it's out there. So wrote an article on IT Unity about the 2016 beta, and you can find that below. And of course, you can get in touch with the four of us. Here's our emails and our Twitter IDs. We're going to be up next. The next episode of CollabTalk will be on December 16th. And we're going to be going through and doing some predictions for 2016, and of course talking about the latest, greatest news that's happening between now and then. But you want to make sure that you add next month's webisode to your calendar and register, and we will, I'm sure, spam you a dozen times between now and then. But thanks everybody for participating, and thanks Naomi and Marc and Eric and Dan and everybody to make this possible, and we'll talk to you in a month.
All right. That's good. Thank you, Christian.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Okay. Bye.